to receive comments from the public, and first up is Mark Unland.
Good afternoon, board. Thank you. I had two comments, and they both have to do with drainage / flooding, so they're all that area. We live in an exceptional community, just excellent community. And I think the Woodlands Water mandate, or their vision, is to provide exceptional water service. And I think it's obvious that they do in terms of water, because every day I turn the faucet on and water comes out and it's clean and fresh. And every day wastewater is handled correctly. There's not violations and problems. But when it comes to drainage, it's not so obvious because we don't test it every day. There's not a means to see, yes, everything's good. So I really don't know whether or not we have exceptional, or whatever the buzzword was, drainage systems. I drive my bike around and I see areas where there's sedimentation build up and maybe sides of drainage canals that have slumped, or even some ditches that look like they're full. So if you ask me, I'd say, well, we have good drainage systems, but I can't say they're exceptional. And I'd like to see us meet the exception. And I'd like to have some sort of transparency around that so that we don't have to wait for the next Harvey to come through and go, oh, wow, that's a problem. We should have fixed that. Seems like we should be fixing that stuff now so that we don't have that problem in the future. So I have no specific recommendation except that we're doing a budget. And if there's no money in the budget to go fix things that we might need to fix, then we're not going to fix them. So my question to the board is, are you assured that we have exceptional drainage systems for the future planned flooding events, which are going to be higher than expected because of whatever reason, NOAA's predictions? And if not, then let's make sure we have money in the budget to cover it. Right? That's the first comment. Second comment is, we do have a project, a 167 project, to improve flooding. And we gave them $1 million+ to go do that work. But as far as I can tell, we don't have any oversight over that. This mud does not have any strings tied to the $1 million. And they're making decisions. They have decided, I think, to go to LJA for the engineering work. And I'm sure LJA is a great company, but they are also the district engineer. So we've got the district engineer company doing district engineering work, and we've also got them doing this project, which tells me we have no oversight. We have no independent engineering group riding herd over LJA. And honestly, LJA has had mistakes on this project already. The ones I remember were they had approval by Fort Bend. So we're up in Montgomery. A project would have to be approved by Fort Bend. That was obviously a mistake. I've seen 3 different cost estimates for that project, and they don't add up. You add the numbers in the column, and they don't add up the total. Right? So that's a problem. And even in their benefits, they assume the benefits, the value of the properties goes to 0 if we don't do this project. 0. As if it disappeared, the land disappeared. So that's all LGA. So I'm not saying that they're a bad company, but that's why you need oversight. You have to have somebody else who's not day-to-day involved in the project riding herd on them. So my suggestion to you is, somehow, I hope that the boards that contributed the money to the flooding project, the 167 project, have some visibility and some sort of dialogue with how the money is being spent, and to ensure that the benefits that were promised, which benefit me, to be honest, come to be. And then we don't 3 years from now go, oh, well, that didn't work out. Okay.
All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is Clayton Young.
Evening.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I appreciate it. I didn't prepare anything, so I'll try to be brief. I don't remember the exact dates, but somewhere between 12 and 18 months ago, project rolled through the Woodlands that was smart meters for water. This was not parallel with the Entergy product where we actually received a letter, an opt-out letter, where you could not have it installed. We got a knock on the door the day of installation and said, your water's gonna be turned off, meters going in, that was it. We did not consent to that. We were not given prior notice. We weren't asked permission, and we want it out. We go through great strides we petitioned Entergy. Both our houses in Montgomery County, we do not have a smart meter on our house. My wife and our children are very sensitive to EMF. Ever since that meter's been going, my wife has not been able to sleep and has been ill. I sent a letter to both the company, an email to both the company that installed it and your general info email that's on your website. And I sent a return receipt. It was read, no response. I sent a demand letter to both the past president of the board and the current president after the election. Certified mail, return receipt, nothing. So I need to know, and the people need to know what to do to get these things out of their property and out of their range of their house if they wish to do so.
You sent a certified letter to me?
No, the president of Woodlands Water,
Okay,
both the past and the current presidential election.
Okay. I understand. Okay.
So do we address that? Because I know it's an overall thing, so I don't know if addressing it to the individual mud, would that be more appropriate?
Well, if you're a MUD 47 resident, I do think that this is an appropriate forum.
So I can take the 2 letters that I sent and forward them to you?
Yes.
That'd be appropriate,
Mhm.
okay, all right. Do you know, is there a formal process? Because like Entergy and the gas company that I have in Nacogdoches, there's actually a formal process to go through to have those things either not installed or removed, and I'm not aware of one for water.
Right. They are new, and for us to discuss it, it has to be on the agenda, and we do have intention to put that item on the agenda on a future meeting, but it's not on today's agenda. But we're all, well, there's 3 of us here today. We're missing 2. But we'll be discussing our policy on those smart meters at a future date.
It's public notice of what you're gonna be discussing and planning.
Yes, we post our agendas, 72 hours before officially, just on the window. Who goes to see that, right? It's also on the website.
And the meeting's the same time every month, pretty much.
Yes, oddly, it is it depends on what Tuesday it is. It could be the 3rd or 4th. It has to be after 2 Wednesdays. She knows.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's, that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's why some of our board members aren't here today because they haven't gotten used to how they have to stand on your one leg and scratch your head. Well, thank you, Mr. Young. Next on the agenda is to consider and act on requests for adjustments or relief.
I have none this
None?
month.
Okay. Next is the consent agenda. These are housekeeping items typically. Does anybody want to pull an item from the consent agenda? No?
Nope.
Do I have a motion to pass the consent agenda? All right, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, the consent agenda just passed. On to review and act on the district's draft fiscal year 22-23 operating budget and recommended water rate structure.
Okay, we do have your budget for you today. And the budget was based on your tax rate of 19. So that's a long 195098 total tax rate. That's what was published in the paper. The budget now includes August actuals, so we're only projecting September actuals. So some of the numbers have changed slightly, but we're open for discussion on any items if you'd like to discuss them, or we'll take a motion to approve it.
Well, what items changed? Was it significant or?
No,
Water sewer
Water
revenue, we
revenue.
did reduce
Yeah.
since last month.
yeah,
That was
Reduce that a little bit?
to be more in line with the projections from the river authority, because they reduced their anticipated
Okay.
gallons.
Roughly what percent?
What we reduced it by, I'm not sure, because we,
I mean, is it one or two or is it?
a couple percentage points over what we presented last month, yes. But nothing.
nothing significant.
All right, well, we've
Still at the
reviewed
year
this
with
budget,
5 months of coverage.
5.5. Very good. All right, do I have a motion to pass the budget? All right, second, thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, the budget has passed. Agenda item number 9, conduct a public hearing regarding the district's intent to levy a tax rate. So 195098, eh?
5098 is what you've published. You can't go any higher, but you can go lower should you choose. I don't know what the parity rate is. I think we discussed that last month.
Yeah.
We are recommending the 19508 just because it gets you to the high point without having a rollback election.
And a typical operating reserve is what, 6 months for?
For a district your size, 6 to 12 months would be.
Mhm. Okay, so we're on the low end.
You're just on the razor edge there at 5.5.
Well, last month I was happy with our tax rate. I mean, we've dropped it quite a bit.
Dropped it from last year.
That's right. So, all right, do I,
Yeah,
Yeah, go
we
ahead.
dropped it significantly in the prior year, if I recall, right?
You did, yeah. You were 209,
Right. We came down.
20925 and you're 1950.
So,
well, in the prior year, we actually levied a tax that was higher than what staff recommended. Mhm. But not this time. We're going well on.
from the prior year.
Right.
I mean, ultimately, I think it's prudent to, stay at the level we are, for a variety of financial reasons, obviously. We're still doing the right thing by our clients and our
Yeah.
taxpayers. And, it gives us room, as they say.
So are you proposing a different tax rate? Okay,
I'm happy with what we have,
all right.
or what we're suggesting for this coming year.
This year, we're suggesting 0.195098. So I'll make a motion that we approve that tax rate for 2022. All right, all in favor, say aye. All right, the tax rate's passed. Next is consider an act upon levy of the district's 22 tax rate and the adoption of an order in connection therewith.
Hi, Katie, I'm filling in for Brian. He apologizes. He wasn't able to make it to this meeting. We do have your order levying taxes. We went ahead and plugged in the rate that you had published, but could have changed it if you had decided to levy a different rate, and we have a signature page for you. And connected therewith, we have your amended district information form. For all of your signatures, we'll need all 3 of you to sign that, and that shows your most recent tax rate and also has the notice to purchasers attached to it, which includes the tax rate in there too. So
Okay.
we updated it in the district information form and in the notice that we attached.
Okay, that's not in this packet that we've already signed. So you'll pass that. Okay.
Yes.
All right, very good. All right, do I have a motion to levy the district's tax rate? Okay. Second, Paul?
Yep, second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That passed. Next on the agenda is approval and execution of an amended district information form. Who's on charge?
So that's me. That's the one I just mentioned. So that's just, it's a form that is required by the TCEQ that tracks the district's information, including the most recent tax rate. So we went ahead and plugged in the rate that you have published, and the notice to purchaser is attached.
Okay, right. A motion in favor of the amended district information. Okay, second, Paul?
Is it correct?
Yes, it is. I can pass it.
Katie's
to
on
the-
top of things over there.
So it's only an amendment, so we only changed the sections that were
Okay, fine.
affected, which is just the tax rate.
Good. All in favor, say aye.
Okay.
Okay, next on the agenda is SJRA report.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Our
Jason.
Monthly operating report is in your packet. One thing to add to that is that as of September 1st, as approved through the buds, we did go to the 50% surface water blend for all water receiving facilities. That's pretty well what wraps up the operations part of it. If you have any questions for me, happy to answer them. If not, Summer and Dan have some quick updates for you.
Okay, great.
So are we the only GRP user who's at 50/50?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what's the lowest blended rate that one of our participants,
35%.
35?
Yes, sir. Everyone stayed at 65, 35. And one of us went to 50/50 per recommendation.
Thank you.
Will you be producing 13 million gallons a day?
Overall yearly average, that's the goal.
That's a goal.
Yes, depending on demands and rainfall, the lack of, that can fluctuate.
Okay. Anything else for Jason? No? Dan? Oh, Summer?
It's
You
me
ready?
Today, yes.
Okay.
So we had several requests for some tours. And so in your packet on page 35, there's a flyer with 2 dates. Thursday, October 6th, we're gonna have a tour of the surface water treatment plant on Lake Conroe. So if anyone's interested in touring that plant. And then we had requests for some of the new directors to tour wastewater plant 1. We have that tour on there, and I am working on tour dates for a tour of the Bear Branch Reservoir and Dam, as well as a tour of the water plants and wells. So once I have those dates finalized, I will send that out. And then Shelley earlier today, probably a couple hours ago, sent out an email that had the video of Jace with the podcast. So for those of you who want to watch that.
I got that.
Good.
Okay, very good. Great,
I
Dan.
think I got the rest of the items. First one, wastewater strategic plan update in your packet, page 36, I believe, is a progress meeting summary from the August 24th internal progress meeting. We also held a progress day that we said we don't have meetings summary for that yet. But really, the main update right now is over the past month and a half, we've been working with a consultant on the cost estimates for the various shortlisted alternatives. We have added a stakeholder meeting that's going to take place on September 28th. And really, the agenda for that is to discuss and receive input from stakeholders on the methodology and metrics for how we approach these cost estimates for the various alternatives, looking at the inputs, the variables, the assumptions, just one, for example, we were assuming 4% inflation, across the planning horizon. So those type of things get input from stakeholders on that methodology. So when we come to the November 2nd stakeholder meeting, more discussion should be geared towards the actual numbers that we present at that meeting and results, path forward, rather than having to go through the whole approach and how are these developed and everything like that. We're hoping this added stakeholder meeting provides for better efficiency come November on how we move forward with the project. There also will be a presentation at this upcoming stakeholder meeting on the membrane bioreactor technology. Giving stakeholders a high level of what the differences are of that treatment technology versus what we're currently using at our facilities of conventional treatment and pros and cons, et cetera. So
Okay.
because we still have some short-lived alternatives that utilize that technology.
So that's on the 20,
That's going to be September 28th.
okay.
That will be
And
one.
included in that is some overview, high-level overview of who's using this that technology today?
Yes, so we ran through that the other day, and I asked, and I already had some more in there on any information they can pull for existing facilities in the region, locally, within Texas, that are utilizing.
Roughly the
this
same
technology.
size as us?
Exactly, you know,
Okay.
similar communities, similar sizes, kind of part of that called benchmarking.
Right,
Type effort, so there will be
Great.
discussion on
that's
that.
terrific. Thank you.
Any other questions on wastewater plant?
The only thing just so I and everyone here is it the November meeting when we'll get our first look at funding and the proposals around
Yeah, so that.
run rate funding on this project?
Yeah, we've already started and engaged the financial advisors. We will be getting information from the consultant here shortly that we'll be discussing with them of here's what a capital outlay over 50 years looks like for alternatives X, Y, and Z. You know, can you help us come up with scenarios for funding? So yes, we plan to get into that in November, continuing discussions all the way really through January, and hope to have a final decision on that for them.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Second bullet point was update on infrastructure funding. I don't have really anything new to present. We've talked about Congressman Crenshaw securing $3.6 million there. We're just waiting for what that looks like, when we may get funding, working with financial advisors on that. But that, just as a reminder, was for the Fair Branch Dam improvements that are coming in the near future regarding the spillway and the upstream source.
Yeah, I don't know whether you guys have seen it earlier, well, end of last week. I read an article that covered funding out of the new Biden plans, whatever. I was surprised that it had a close date of November 30th for certain entities if they want to participate in those dollars. And, I don't know if you guys have in place, given all this stuff that's actually getting done, available funds that we can make use of perhaps on things that we need to do. I think that funding was a match funding arrangement, okay, 50-50, local versus plus federal government, but you guys may want to take a look at that.
No, I appreciate that comment. What's next? Fair Branch Dam repair. So you may recall last month we came to y'all, gave an update on the minor repairs to Bear Branch Dam. We talked a little bit about during construction and the final inspection, some additional voids were discovered. We also had some overruns on quantities of the grout and joint sealing. We have proceeded. The contractor has made all the repairs as of basically yesterday. There's a final inspection plan for tomorrow. We came last month with a number of around $60,000. That would be additional to the original contract value for both all that. And we don't have all the final numbers today, but we are confident it's going to be under that 60,000. We have an item on Esther A board agenda for this Thursday to officially approve that change order. But essentially the work is completed.
60,000 to be divided among 5 months.
Correct. So yeah, the original contract amount was a little over $107,000. The revised contract amount via the to be approved change order is a little over $167,000. We anticipate coming in just a little bit under that.
So what, that's great. We're moving forward on this thing. What's the process we're putting in place for review? Okay. review of the condition of the dam on a go-forward basis.
So
I mean, is
Required to
that-
be inspected every 5 years.
every 5 years, we have a formal TCEQ dam inspection.
Right.
And we also have consultants that come out and do that. And have a formal inspection report that's provided to TCEQ. But, beyond that is internal SJRA staff on a regular routine basis going out there through our preventative maintenance and asset management programs. and
Okay, so-
performing those assessments.
When I went back on this, when it first came to the surface, I'd gone back on the annual reviews you had done by your outside engineering firm.
Mhm.
And it appeared to me, just from what was presented to me, that you were doing a review with an outside agent every year. Was that outside agent doing it independently, or are they doing it as your captive through that period? Because they had called this stuff out, and I don't want to get into the noise around it, but they had called it out, issues like this out for, to the best of my remembrance, at least 4 out of the 5 years. And I just wondered, I
I think we did do one 2 years in a row for the ground penetrating radar.
There was some, term inspections, and we
Yeah.
have a on-call dam safety consultant that sometimes we issue work assignments to perform inspections or come out and look at something that our field staff maybe observed, but want a professional engineer's opinion that specializes in dams and
Yeah, I
embankments.
think we questioned the depth of the voids and we wanted another opinion.
Yeah,
Uh,
but
yeah, there were
There was a number
of issues.
we weren't comfortable with.
Well, and that's in the past, but I was just wondering, are we talking every 5 years? Are we talking about as needed, or are we talking about, a baseline examination at least once a year?
so for compliance with TCEQ, every 5 years.
Right, got it.
And we have an O&M manual for Bear Branch that I can't recall off the top of my head. The maintenance and asset management program.
And those are-
If they observe something that is outside their expertise, it would be them to report, and we can go to our professional dam safety
Right,
consultant.
and that's done by your dam division, correct?
It's through our Lake Conroe division.
Right. So one of the questions I asked as we start to work through this is, how do we make sure that the Woodlands Division, of which we're a part, okay? That there's transparency and communication on an annual basis between your dam division, who's presumably looking at all this, and the Woodlands Division.
Well, in my opinion, I haven't been coming to y'all for that long, I feel you should be getting routine updates regarding Bear Branch, regardless of whatever the items may be. And, that's something I can bring
Yeah,
back.
we get an annual update when we approve their budget. We get that annual
But
update.
if,
So you get the annual engineering update at
Any
budget
maintenance
time.
items, any repair items, that's approved in the budget, which you guys participate in.
Okay,
So, yeah.
and if there's anything of significance, I feel, through transparency, we're going to be coming and
Yeah.
informing
Oh, yeah.
at least the MUDs.
That's where the money's gotta come from. So, yeah.
Um,
And then I guess the other question I have, just a macro question, because I have no idea. I know when I make hills to stop water up, it washes away. How long does a dirt and, an earthen and cement cap dam last typically? Is there a mean time to failure for these things, or is everyone unique? I mean, just stupid Paul here, wondering
I don't
about.
know if it has a design.
Yeah,
life
I don't
per
know if
se.
I want to put a number on that, but. I
Okay,
would
so that's
assume
not-
they're at least, 100-year assets, and, there would obviously be maintenance, renewal, rehab, program to extend that life.
Appreciate the input. Thank you.
last item, I think, on the list, there's one called Bear Branch Dam Low Flow Vault Update. So, I feel like this is a significant little project that we have going on, something that is to be transparent, to give you updates on a routine basis, even though it is a minor thing in our operations and maintenance of Bear Branch. But last month, we came to you with some basic information on the low flow valve vault lid. Had issues with vandalism, breaking locks, et cetera, on that. And also, we've talked about the fall protection and grading underneath it. So we are moving forward with a small, developing a small procurement package, which should take place over the next 4 to 6 months, 4 to 6 weeks. And we will be taking that package to solicit quotes from various contractors to procure and install a new valve vault lid that incorporates fall protection grading underneath it. And that is our step forward. So we can provide up that item if you want.
Well, that's good.
And then the last thing I just want to mention quick, that's not on here, is this week, this Thursday, there is an item on SRA board agenda regarding the second supplement there to the operating agreement between the MUDs and SRA for the Bear Branch. Yeah, that is on there for approval from SRA.
Jim signed that, right?
He did.
Correct.
It's also on the Google Drive.
And their meetings are at 8 a.m. up in Conroe.
Yeah, that's the one I want to get to.
Any other questions for me?
No, thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Okay, Katie, attorney's report.
I don't
Nothing?
have anything for you.
Okay, the next item, number 14, we're gonna take that off of the agenda, right? It's the annexation.
Yeah,
And
I
we're
know
not-
that there isn't an update and there was the concern of the city requiring that.
Okay.
LPA, if Brian had mentioned that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't know if it was
Support.
totally done, ready to be off the agenda or.
We should remove it, bring it back when.
Yeah. keep it
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, so we'll remove the 5.572. Next on the agenda is discuss policy RNS 14, special handling or adjustment of customer accounts. So this one we had on the agenda last month and we punted it, right? But if you'll turn to page 43, they've reproduced that policy. And that's the role of our board, I think, to make policy decisions. And what's different about us right now is that we do have the smart meters. We have near real-time notification of leaks. I think about utilities like electricity and, Entergy doesn't give any waivers. Water is different though. Personally, I've come home after paying a sprinkler repairman to fix my lines, and I went to close the blinds after dinner, and there's a big flood next to the house. Well, I caught it fast enough, and in my 24 years here, I've never asked for a variance, but let's say that leak had gotten worse, and what would I do? So, but like I said, things have changed now that we have smart meters, and I think we have a policy here that I will say is very lenient. It has a number of 1,000 before it comes to the board. And at the bottom of page 43, it includes a lot more things than maybe we need to have. And so hopefully you've all had a time to look at this, and with 2 board members out today, I don't know that it's the right night to make any decisions, but if you guys wanted to ask staff or to discuss this right now, it would be appropriate.
We are still putting in meters. We're not quite finished with the Woodlands just yet. We've got 60 or so meters to go, and these are problem meters that may have to have height modifications because there's trees encroaching in, and there's roots and so forth. What we might want to do, and I'm agreeing with you, I think, because once everybody's on board and they're with the water, they've logged onto the Water Smart customer portal, they can track their own usage. We do need to modify the policy maybe to not be so forgiving, but maybe we should wait A little bit longer until we get all the meters in. Everybody has a chance to use it, maybe another 6 months or 3 months or
Okay.
something like
Yeah.
that. That's just my opinion.
The thing that, Maureen, could you just speak to the dollars here? I mean, all right, our income and expenses are in the $10 million range. I mean, how much? You know, I assume that we, the staff here at Woodlands Water uses prudent approach to the small approvals. And anything that's over $1,000 ends up either, Mike, I guess, with you or Jim, right?
Yeah, it's comes to one of us and it comes to the board.
Yeah, and I just think that as it relates to customers, I think we have to have procedures. Every business has to have procedures. But I actually think that we've got, flexibility is a critical issue in a community like this. And, when I looked at the survey results, it looked like, if I remember the number of people using our online system was, I think, in the 30% range. So it's, it's still pretty low. But the bigger issue to me is, I think management needs the ability to act smartly in our relationship with customers and events. So, but if you could just talk to the dollars and then what probably influenced the dollars.
Sure. Here's a graph showing the dollar volume since 2014 each year, calendar year. 2021 was the highest. We gave just under $25,000 in leak adjustments. And then this is the current year. I think this is through the end of July, so we will update it in a few months to catch all of 2022. It's under $5,000.
A bar chart going to the left, so it's
This is
my,
now the table is done.
I think left is good.
Yeah.
Um,
Either way,
Going
you
in the
can
hole.
see, 2021, we had, I think the contractors hitting a lot of lines, but a lot of repairs in 2021, so it was quite high. 2020, we had the freeze, less leaks,
Yeah.
but you can see significantly less so far this year, so
Mhm.
take that into consideration. It's not
Yeah.
a big issue.
Yeah.
Very good.
If you want.
Yeah, that'd be neat. So generally, I think that when we grant a variance, I like to call it a variance, it's asking other customers to pay for whatever happened with someone else. And since the old school board members are in this room and entirely, you'll remember probably the evening that I believe it might have been a real estate agent that came to our meeting and was just very aware of our board policy and seemed to just drive a freight train through it. So I just, in that kind of a situation, don't like the fact that we're asking other residents to pay someone else's bill. So I would like to shore this up, and I appreciate your comments that 3 months from now, we'll have all the smart meters in and we can revisit it at that time. So maybe we kick off 2023 with a solid policy that doesn't make victims of the majority. So let's shoot for that, eh?
And I have a question, because there's only two adults in my household. $1,000 seems incredibly high to me.
Well, yeah, it's mostly
just-
commercial. They get-
Okay.
They get up that high.
Because we don't even hit 200, I don't believe, because we just, so the thought of the 1,000 seems very, very
Some of these
high.
large lots, if they got a sprinkler malfunction, they can get up there pretty fast. though.
Okay, that's what, I didn't know what was reasonable.
How?
Certainly not my law.
Well, but I do remember what Laura, the incident Laura was talking about, and I do think that it should be resident-based. If we don't have, we have that in our only residents, not real estate agents. Because she was covering for not doing her job, okay? I'm sorry.
What was what was the incident, Paul? I don't.
Well, it was an incident where she had management of a property.
Oh,
The numbers went through the roof because I'll say somebody wasn't paying attention. And she came here supposedly representing her customer, and as if by wizardry, water escaped and it was somebody's fault other than hers, and she was the manager of the property. You know, that's, and I don't remember the dollar amount, but it was a pretty high number, relatively speaking.
I agree with everything you said, yeah.
So that could be a change that we should make, because obviously,
I do think that I absolutely think our customer service, our staff is competent. They can do the job. I want for us to be that the buck stops here. This is where I anticipate having to face a resident who's honked off at their high bill because they left their water on. And I'm that kind of an ugly person, as you all know. I'll say, no, I've been here 24 years and I don't want to have that burden of you not being responsible and taking care of it. Now, if we hear a story where we go, oh, that would have happened to me too. I mean, those are incredible circumstances or something to that end, but that means that they show here and explain their story. And does this say the buck stops here? Anyway, so, all right, let's punt this then to what is next year, 2023, and that'll be a New Year resolution for MUD 47. Okay. So I wasn't prepared to end that discussion as far as where are we next? Let staff report on drainage ditches.
I passed out a little map. It didn't quite come out as good as I hoped. Hopefully we got one. Gave one to Mark. Mark Unland brought this up last month, and then Cynthia wanted to talk about it, so we put it on the agenda. We've got about 1,200 acres of ditches that we mow for the entire woodlands. Your district is kind of outlined in the orange. Again, it didn't come out like I had hoped, but you can see the ditches in your district that we mow, fertilize, and herbicide. So we mow 4 times a year.
So may I ask while we're here? So there's,
Sure.
let's call it 2 sections of MUD 47. One's the east, the old, and then the new and the west. So I see 3 drainage ditches that cross through MUD 47 on the east side. Am I seeing the map correctly?
Yes, you are seeing the map correct.
And then there's, boy, it doesn't really depict a nice blue line where Cottage Green is, and I know there's a drainage ditch back there. It's white. That must be an SJRA ditch?
SJRA.
Okay, I see. So then you've got a V, and that V, if you will, it's the one where the blue lines make a V.
Yes.
That's been controversial, right? Because it floods research there, or it has before. I remember from drainage task force meetings. I think the name of the street there is Summer something.
There, I think you're thinking down here in front of
they're in front of the high school.
high school.
Oh, no, this was another,
Cat's Cradle.
Jim would, yeah, I know Cat's Cradle. That's
There
my,
was some flooding down there at Egypt and Research,
uh-huh,
and then there was some flooding down at Branch Crossing and Research.
okay.
But that was not a drainage ditch issue. It was a storm sewer inlet issue.
Okay.
That has been corrected. So anyway,
There-
we do mow
Okay, anyway, go ahead.
about 4 times a year, April, June, August, and October. So it's, we fertilize in May and herbicide in November.
Okay.
So during those 6 trips to the ditches, our mowing contractor also takes photographs and notes any erosion, sinkholes, broken manholes, and anything that's wrong with the ditch at the time he makes he mows or makes the inspection. So that's kind of our trigger to go out there. Okay, we got some slopes that have failed. We've got a sandbar that needs to be dug out. And that's kind of how we approach it. Now, for a larger project like we're having in MUD 1, we have a ditch that we need to completely regrade. it's tied to the lake, and the lake, anyway.
Lake Woodlands?
Mhm.
Mhm.
It ties to Lake Woodland, so we've got money budgeted to completely regrade that entire ditch.
Mhm.
But very rarely do we have to regrade an entire ditch. It may be small plugs here and there, or
And so how much does it cost to regrade an entire ditch? And since you have mud one on here, is that coming out of Lake Woodlands then?
it's.
To
it
get a
stops
size of
at
it?
Lake Woodlands.
Oh, it stops
And
there.
once it gets to Lake Woodlands, someone else maintains the lake.
Okay.
So there's a structure where it drops into Lake Woodlands. We stop at that structure.
How much is Mud One spending? that?
They're spending about, I think we got 160,000 in their budget for that work. Now, some of the ditches are designed to hold water. This one is one of those ditches. It's designed to hold water because of the two structures that hold it back. But there's a lot of mucking out, if you will, that has to be done. So what we'll do is we'll muck that out, and rather than haul it off, we'll put it up on the top of the bank, let the water drain out, and then remove it once it dries out. We don't have any projects planned for your district like that. We do have, every once in a while, people will put, they'll build something out on the ditch that's not supposed to be their patio or a garden. We'll have to knock on the door and tell them to remove that politely. Or people will tie in a yard drain out into the ditch. They'll cut through the side of the ditch
Yeah, that
and tie it
happens a
in.
lot.
That happens more than you would think, and that causes erosion and problems. So we'll plug that and tell the customer they need to cut it off at their fence line, not through our berm.
So I understand Mud 36. I was reading an article how they expended, I think it was $300,000 or $600,000 to get their drainage ditches back to original design. What would it, I mean, obviously ours would be significantly higher to do that.
Yeah, and once we do the regrading, we regrade them back to the planned elevations on the construction plans, which we have. But many of them are actually even lower than the planned elevations. They need to actually come up. That was the odd part. They've undercut, so the ditches actually need to be raised, which we don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
So, but
So
what
you're
happened
saying
in
our-
Mud 36, that Mud 36 had what they call some splash pads. A pipe would enter a ditch, and it would be a concrete pad that would go across the ditch and then up the other side. That board or that district decided to cut out the splash pad and lower the ditch. So they did not go back to design grade. They actually cut their ditch lower. And now by doing that, it holds water.
But I guess the question I have is, we're talking Mud 47 here. Do we have any big problem areas that have the potential for causing flooding or anything else into neighborhoods?
I could give you a list. We don't, Mud 47 never really did have a flooding problem. You
Right.
guys were always kind of high and dry. It was that, there may be some street ponding, but that's
Part and
about the
parcel of
extent of
the,
it. Yeah.
yeah, you know, what would be valuable, I think, to one of our customers' questions is, I know that Jim has historical information on big water events. And it would be great, I think, if we could have a presentation on that historical information, so that we can, examine if there is a problem or if there isn't a problem. Running after things we think are problems is expensive, and, I think we really need to get into much more quantitative analysis of this kind of stuff. So if we have a problem, let's go back, take a look at history and understand, is there truly a problem?
Yeah, any of the big flooding events, Ike, Harvey,
Tax Day, Memorial Day.
Tax Day,
Yeah.
Memorial Day. We've had LJA look at the
Right.
design of that, and then based on high watermarks, let us know, is the ditch functioning as it was designed, and or does it need some improvements? And so we've got that data. We can make a
Yeah.
presentation.
I know you do. Thank you.
My concern, and you see where I'm coming from, is that, I think the county's drainage standards are poor and their enforcement of even what they have are poor.
Mhm.
And I know that other people would disagree with me, and that's whatever. You just move forward. So I think as we see new development to our north and west, the vulnerable spots in mud 47 are our west side of our mud, and it comes down and affects the drainage ditch behind the YMCA on Shadow Bend and so on. It's all related. So when I see a comparison of mud 36 drainage ditches, they look better. I'm not an engineer, and I don't really understand what a splash pad is, except a place where kids play. So, but they look better.
It is just to keep when a pipe enters a ditch, to keep the ditch from scouring out, and having a big hole there, they put this concrete pad down there.
Okay.
Well, that
I think I've
district
seen
I
what
was
you're
talking about, they cut that concrete pad out, so that ditch is actually lower than the flow line.
That's why it looks better to my eye then.
That's why
Yeah.
it's walking. It's
Uh-huh.
got lower than the downstream receiving ditch. That's the funny part.
The area you're talking about, the west side over Northern Bridge,
Yeah.
if I'm not well, I don't remember the precise number, but I think we spent probably close to $1.5 million, maybe even 2 million.
We spent a total of about $1.2 million
Yeah, I
in
remember
your
that.
district.
And we,
Yeah,
and we
spent-
did that. I mean, I lived there, okay? And my home is 15 feet higher than the bottom of the street,
Yeah.
okay? And when the development happened, when the original development placement happened, there was not sufficient room for the water to actually move into the runoff areas, okay? And so we spent, in Cottage Green, we spent money to open up that end of the, and
Well, I remember.
all the way
Yeah.
through.
There's more development. That's my point.
Well, but if you go over to that side, and you take a tour, okay? There's been some substantial mitigation that was planned and installed. Now, there is a development there, okay? That I don't know what the impact of that development is, but it's all tract housing that was put in. I don't know if you've been over there. There's tract housing, and I think the average square footage is probably about 1,200 to 1,500 square feet.
Cynthia and I went there when it was clear cut.
The one on Buckshot?
Yeah,
Oh,
tract housing.
about 100
Yeah.
homes.
Right. And they're
small.
yeah, and well, yeah. Yeah, I think they're all rentals.
Well, we haven't had a major rain event since that's been installed, so it's a concern and,
Most of these ditches, it's very rare if they come out of their banks. Now, when you
Yeah.
get down to the floodplains, the Panther Branch, the Bear Branch, the Alden Branch,
Mhm.
that's the floodplain. That's the low end. So everything's going to get spread out, and it will come out of that pilot channel. But very, very rarely do any of these ditches come out of their banks.
well, I appreciate the map. And any more questions from the board? Okay.
Not being an engineer, not knowing much about it, I just look at it and think, oh, yeah, there's a lot of grass in there and that can't be good. That was,
I agree. I
We
mean,
want grass, and the reason, we don't want
erosion.
trees and stuff, but we want grass to minimize the
Yeah.
erosion. So that's why we do
Okay.
fertilize it once a year.
yeah,
And then we do herbicide, the ones that we can't mow out to the very middle.
yes,
We do herbicide just to keep the
okay.
willows and stuff from growing up in there. But the grass, once it gets, 18 inches deep, the grass just lays down. It has zero effect.
That was my.
Now, trees, that's a different issue.
I watched a Mud 6 video. I'm so glad that we are recording all these videos, and I saw the answer to why we fertilize. I mean, the Mud 6 said, we don't want to fertilize anymore. If we're mowing, the best thing to do is just to not fertilize and it won't grow and you don't have to mow. But that's not the best practices, and
Yeah,
it's there
hard
for
not
good
to
reason.
get grass on a slope.
Yeah.
It really is. So we do want to fertilize. It's not a big cost. I think it's 30,000 for the entire woodlands.
Wow, okay.
It's not that big of a number, so maybe 3,000 a district or something.
Well, doesn't the grass to some extent slow down the velocity of the water as it runs?
The water gets high enough, the grass
If
just
it gets
lays
high
down.
enough, yeah.
If it gets
But I
a
mean, in a
foot
normal
deep or so.
environment,
Yeah, on a normal regular rain, it kind of cleans the grass, really. It's actually better for the environment. Kind of cleans the silt and any kind of contaminants out of the water, so the fish and the turtles and the minnows and so forth can have.
the turtles are out. I missed one on the road today
Oh,
on purpose.
good. Glad you missed it. Your job is fascinating. Thanks for telling us all about drainage ditches.
Okay.
So receive and act upon staff information regarding the upcoming MCAD Board of Directors for the term of office 22-23.
There is a vacancy. Do we know if it's Montgomery ISD? I still don't know, but Montgomery ISD, I believe, is the vacancy that was created. When that individual either moved or sold his property or whatever, he's not serving on that board anymore. So there is a vacancy and it's open for nominations.
Shouldn't it be filled by someone from MISD?
I think the way it works, Katie, correct me if I'm wrong, the remaining board members will choose the next board member. So they're just taking nominations now. Probably more than likely, you're right. They'll choose somebody from that district since that's who the person was representing.
Okay.
But we've had a couple of nominations before. The previous MUD, before you just took no action. Metro nominated an individual that we did not know, Harry Alcott, who was the nominating individual on that board, knew the man personally and thought he'd be a good fit. MUD 1 and MUD 60 nominated Walt Leshevsky from Montgomery County. He's a board member from MUD 1. Thought he would be a good fit. MUD 7 deferred, just took no action. So it's really up to you all.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we recommend Walt Leshevsky. I think that'd be great. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
I have no idea.
Oh, he's president of MUD 1.
He's been
He
around.
was the DSC
He's
president for a long time.
Hometown hero. He's was on the DSC board for several years.
Okay, based on that, okay.
Okay. All right, so we've approved recommending Walt Leshevsky for MCAD. Number 18, received GM report.
Just a couple things. At the trustee meeting, there were two gentlemen that attended the meeting that are running for vacant spots on Lone Star. One of them you may know is the MUD 36 director named John Yours. He is running for the Woodlands, the vacancy the open spot in the Woodlands. And then James Ridgway is running for the precinct 3 spot that's in James Nowak's district. So they both came. They're not running against each other, but they presented a campaign paper, just kind of what their outlooks are and what their campaign will be.
Their mission statement, yeah.
So if you're so inclined, anybody's open to it. Those are the only two that did show up. Others were invited, or it was open. No one else came. I can't think of anything else that we were talking about. I think that was really it, unless you've got questions.
Not here. Paul, Cynthia?
Anything?
No. Okay. The trustees report, well, Hugh is not here, but that was an item from the trustee agenda. It is, I did watch it. It's online and very good. The trustee. So it was very interesting, the discussion, because it was an agenda item, the two candidates that showed up asked, or the board was able to ask them questions and there was response. So that was very nice. There's no reason to go to.
You know, we did, I want to just mention, we did ask Schwartz Page to look at our policy RNS 60. Do you remember talking about that one? It was how to handle customer defaults.
Oh, the tax defaults, right? Yes,
Tax for.
I saw that in our
Water
packet.
bill, just defaults in general.
Oh,
This was-
okay.
This was water bills, basically. Used to, or the policy is now you got to put a door hanger out there and it's getting more costly, the services that do that for us. Gas is more expensive, so that price is going up. So Brian and Katie and Schwartz Page will be looking for some other options on how to legally do that. You have to give them notice, send them a registered letter before you cut them off. So
We had eight,
Okay.
huh? We had eight finals and 238, well, that's not our number. We had 9 finals and 180, God, my eyes, 164 first.
yeah, 164 past due door hangers and 9 cutoffs.
Aren't we required by law to do that though?
We are. We just got to give proper notice.
Okay, so you're gonna try and redefine proper notice with our attorneys?
Correct.
Good.
Correct.
Okay, anything else?
No, that's all.
Okay. Any more comments from the public? No?
I do.
Go ahead, Mr. Armand.
Thank you. Mike, this is excellent, to understand more of the drainage issues and to understand,
That's just a mud issue, the mud drainage. It's not.
yeah, I heard that SGRA. I heard that's SGRA news. And that's kind of a separate comment that I've had in the past, which is where do we have like the integrated drainage plan for the woodlands? Because the roads have ditches. SGRA has ditches, muds have ditches. Who's got the big picture that says, when this storm comes over, this is what's gonna happen? And I don't expect you to answer that, but it seems like with all the work being done at Bear Branch Dam, Mud 67, and anything
That's
else,
what's going to come out of the mud.
Seems like we should have.
Study.
I love it.
They're going to
Okay.
be updating that master drainage.
Okay, good. The second comment is what you described, I would say, is a very good maintenance system in that you look back at past storms and you identify problems and you fix them. What I'm looking for is the exceptional drainage maintenance, where you look forward and say, what's the next storm going to look like? What is the prediction for the next bad storm? And fix it before it happens. We don't wait for the water system to run out of water before we decide to add a new pump. Or we don't wait till the wastewater system is overflowing. We fix it before it happens, and why don't we do that for drainage?
Well, and that's the beauty of it. The woodlands, all the ditches, when they were originally built, were built for ultimate development. So in other words, as the woodlands progressed and grew and grew and grew, we didn't have to keep widening and lengthening and deepening these ditches. They were already built. So for years, we've enjoyed it. Excess capacity in the ditches.
Right.
Now they're getting up there. They're getting a little higher, but they're designed for the ultimate capacity.
Well, but the ultimate capacity is changing, and I'm not trying to make a debate here. I'm just saying that NOAA has predicted that the future rains are going to be 3 to 4 inches worse than the past rains. So if we got 15 inches last time, you're going to get 18 or 19. And where's that water going to go? That's what I'm getting
I
at,
hear you.
is to project out in the future and try to say, this is what we need to maintain the same standard. that we've
Understood.
had in the past.
Yeah, I know where you're coming from.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yeah, Rhonda.
In Dan's absence, he had given me an update. So he said to let you know that a drainage impact analysis is being done, work is underway, and the results are critical for the sizing of detention and drainage facilities. DIA for work, again, drainage impact analysis is being done near 1488. It's in preliminary stages, and it's going to be about 2 months before the first submittal.
It's going to be,
About 2 months before the first submittal.
okay. So Howard Hughes is doing a drainage impact analysis?
That's what you need to.
You know, the way that as I was sitting here reading this and listening to all of you talk, the way that I read this is that it looks like it's 2 things, but I'm wondering if it's just one. Because he said drainage impact analysis work is underway and the results are critical for the sizing. But then underneath that, DIA for work near 1488 is in preliminary stages, going to be about 2 months for first submittal.
Okay.
He's also in another mud meeting in Bridgeland right now, so I apologize that is a little confusing. Since I was listening to all of you, I'm like, this might be,
Mhm.
so I can follow up on that with him tomorrow and shoot you an email if you want me to.
Sure, that'd be great.
That way you can send it out to the rest of the group and it's more clear.
Yeah, I appreciate you letting us know. He's kind of looking at that.
Yes.
That's very good. Okay. Anything else? Or are we ready to add items to future agenda? Anything? Yeah.
Just what I suggested, which is that present, let's understand what's happened in the past in major rain events and be able to present that. Okay, and I guess
Yeah, I remember.
also, revisit it for ourselves. It's been a number of years, I think, since that's been on the agenda. So I think that's a good thing to do.
You can do that.
I think it's really important to explode myths and get to quantitatives. So understanding what happened in the past gives you an eye to the future. Not a perfect eye, obviously, but it gives you a good eye to the future. I mean, I'm here 34 years now. I've been through quite a number of storms and,
Mhm. Very good. I love it. I think that's a big responsibility of our MUD to be the mud that doesn't flood. And I'd like for us to pursue this because I'm concerned about 30% more rain as NOAA predicts.
the only other question I have, there's a WWA survey in here. And we don't necessarily have to discuss it. I'd just like to know, what are we gonna do with it and who owns it?
Well, the community owns it. And we have at least one rep from MUD 47 on the communications committee. Are you on a poll? You're not?
I thought I was, but I haven't heard anything lately.
I had heard you were too. So I know that Hugh is on the communications committee. But
Well, as long as there's a plan to do something with it, that's all.
I'm sure they didn't do it just for the fun of it, right? Rhonda's on it. You want to speak to that?
Yeah, so we had a meeting just last week, and the general sitting behind me, the new employee.
Oh, John Geiger.
In summer was there as well, and so we discussed the results and talked about putting together a roadmap.
Mhm.
That was the purpose of the survey, was to see where the priorities lie and what we need to do, so, putting together some action items. I just talked to John about a couple of things today.
Well, fantastic.
Okay, so somebody owns it, good.
Yeah, they appointed a new president of the communications committee, right? Neil Gaynor.
Neil Gaynor.
Neil Gaynor.
Yeah.
All right, that's great.
I stepped out, but he's still a member, but.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. Sounds like they're doing gangbusters. I think that brings the meeting to an end. Thank you, everyone.